Happy Pentecost Sunday. Happy Pentecost days. So we have to a little bit maybe about what Pentecost is. We have in English the word Pentagon, and it's a 5-sided building outside of Washington. Pentecost is 50, 5-0. And in Exodus 23, starting at verse 14, Moses has been given the instruction that there are 3 major feasts to be remembered. And the first one is Passover, or the Feast of Unleavened Bread, recalling the removal of the Israelites from Egypt. And the third one is the harvest feast they call the gathering. It's also called Sukkoth in Hebrew. It's tabernacles, they call it, or tents, that it's the gathering of grapes and olives. And in some Jewish homes and families, you will see a little hut in the backyard or in the field. It's a reminder that the early Jews lived in huts and gathered olives and grapes. It's a Thanksgiving feast. It's in the fall, and it's now Hasidic Jews, very faithful Jews, sit in the booth with pumpkins and squash and apples, reminding God of their gratitude. But it's the second feast. It's the feast of harvest of the first fruits. So it's 7 weeks, 49 days, plus 1. That gives us 50. So from the resurrection, 7 weeks. So last week we had the 7th Sunday of Ordinary Time, and now it's 7 weeks plus a day, 50 days. And what in the first reading in the gospel, they're gathered together, but especially the first reading, they're gathered together as a celebration of the first fruits of the field, the planting and 7 weeks of the grains of wheat. And they are presented according to the law, a tenth of it to the temple. And it's a great celebration, and people come from all over. So people of all different languages. And while they are there, something happens. They're apparently in this house, and there's this wind, and that's the key, the breath, spirit. But the Hebrew word is both breath and wind. Now we have to go back to Genesis. It's the work of God laboring to bring about creation by breathing on the chaos. So bringing order out of chaos is a huge theme of God's relationship with Israel and in Jesus. So there is this chaos, and let there be light, and let there be this, and let there be that. It's the story of creation by breathing, the Hebrew word. It's the same word then in the Acts of the Apostles. Remember, the Acts of the Apostles are a gospel of the Holy Spirit, what the Spirit can do with humanity in forming community and forming distributors of the good news. So, the Acts of the Apostles is really the Acts the gospel of the Spirit, if you will. Now the gospel, we've been hearing a lot from John's gospel, and we heard this gospel on the second Sunday of Easter, where Jesus comes to the frightened apostles in the upper room. You know the story. And they are there for fear. And he comes to them and offers them, and he says, peace, twice he says, peace be with you. And after he says this, he breathed upon them and said, receive the Holy Spirit, which is exactly what was it celebrated in the Acts of the Apostles in the first reading. Then he says, whose sins you forgive, they are forgiven, and those you retain, they are retained. What he's saying is, I'm sending you the Spirit of the infinitely loving, laboring, creating God. That's a huge definition of God. Infinite, loving, infinitely loving, creating and laboring God. And Jesus is the intensification, the incarnation of that ever-present intensification. The incarnation of the interior of God. And I'm saying, Jesus says, I am saying I have been sent to you, and I am sending you. But I am sending you with the Spirit of creation. It's the same Spirit. It's the same breathing. I'm breathing upon you, and you will breathe upon others, bringing order out of chaos. That's the church. That's the belief that we have as Christians, that we are sent. As he has been sent to us, he is sent by us, and to be sent with us. To what? To, by the way we live, to be women and men who intensify God's creating, laboring love. Tremendous dignity. And that same Spirit comes to us to help us live with our own chaos, disorder. Laboring to bring order out of our own chaos, that we then, as the upper people in the upper room, that's chaos. They don't know who they are. They don't know where they're going. And Jesus comes and orients them, gives them direction because he gives them identity. The Spirit will tell you who you are. Remind you who you are. That you are an incarnation now of me, who is the intensification of God's creating, laboring love. That's what God does. God labors. And we labor, or let God labor through us in whatever form we can to bring some kind of order out of some kind of chaos. That's the labor of the church, and that's the labor of each of us. So we allow Jesus to come and breathe upon us and within us, that we do not just then establish our own kingdom, our own orderliness, and live with that. What I receive is not mine. Who I am is not mine. The breath of creation is moving me outward, onward, to where? I don't know exactly. I'm going into the mystery into which Jesus himself came and into which he brings order. And so one of the ways you can look at the whole life of Jesus, which is consummated in this gospel, is that he went around healing, teaching, nourishing, guiding, accompanying, bringing order out of the chaos, especially in the synoptics, of bringing order out of the demons wanting uncreation, destruction. And Jesus destroys the demons that there might be order out of chaos. And so we have people in paralysis, people who are unable, people living in cemeteries and crippled and bound, unbinding. For what? That they might enter in to this wonderful way of living. Yes, there is chaos in our lives, and we let the Spirit come. And it is the work of the Spirit that works within us to let the Spirit come to us. That's the work of the Spirit. The work of the Spirit is to help us see the other gifts that He has given us, mainly ourselves, and that we are instruments, we are sacraments, we are a way of breathing God's Spirit wherever we find chaos, and you can find it everywhere. Families, parishes, cities, governments, nations, world, chaos. Is the world going to hell in a handbasket? No. The maker of the handbasket has come. And we extend that handbasket of creation to others. It's a great way to live. To rely on the good Spirit. To say, yes, you have gifts. Now use them. They're not yours. They're ours. And your gifts are helping us receive the laboring of God. So He's telling the apostles, get out of here. As I have been sent, so I send you. I will always be sending you. I will always have the Spirit breathing within you, that you may not hide, but reveal. The fruits of the Spirit are many, but one Spirit. One laboring God, not giving up on our creation and asking us not to give up on ours, not to give up on yours, and not to give up on theirs. The work of the Spirit is ongoing creation.